The darkness outside your window is almost palpable, a heavy mist that seeps into the quiet hours of the night. And as you lie here, you would have heard the distant hum of a long-forgotten highway, if only the wind carried the sounds of centuries past. I always come back to this one, the story of the gibbet cages that once stood at the old Crossroads, a haunting reminder of a time when justice was meted out with a ruthless efficiency. The Crossroads, a place where paths converged, where travelers would stop to rest and refuel, and where the condemned would be left to hang, a grim spectacle for all to see. In the 18th century, these gibbet cages were a common sight, a symbol of the brutal punishments that awaited those who broke the law. And as the years went by, they became a part of the landscape, a morbid landmark that people would whisper about in hushed tones. The cages themselves were simple, yet terrifying, made of iron and wood, designed to hold the body of the condemned in a state of perpetual torment, a grim reminder of the consequences of crime. And as the seasons passed, the cages would slowly rust, the wood would rot, and the bodies would decompose, leaving behind only the faintest whisper of a life once lived. The old Crossroads, where these gibbet cages stood, was a place of dark fascination, a place where the living would come to gaze upon the dead, and where the dead would remain, suspended in time, a haunting echo of a long-forgotten era. You can almost imagine the sound of horse hooves on the dirt road, the murmur of hushed conversations, and the creaking of the cages in the wind, a somber serenade that would have accompanied the traveler on their journey. And as the night wears on, the shadows would grow longer, the darkness would deepen, and the gibbet cages would seem to loom larger, a haunting presence that would have been impossible to ignore. The air would have been heavy with the scent of decay, and the silence would have been punctuated only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the rustle of leaves in the wind. In this quiet, somber atmosphere, the past seems to come alive, and the echoes of a forgotten highway begin to whisper secrets in the darkness, a gentle reminder of the darkness that lies just beyond the edge of town, waiting to be rediscovered. As you drift off to sleep, the sound of the wind rustling through the trees and the creaking of the old gibbet cages will linger in your mind, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lies at the heart of human history. As the moon casts its silvery glow over the deserted crossroads, the shadows seem to whisper tales of a long-forgotten era when the gibbet cages stood as grim sentinels, a stark reminder of the harsh justice meted out to those who dared to defy the law. The wind stirs, and the creaking of old wooden beams echoes through the night, a haunting serenade that transports you to a time when the sound of clanging bells was a constant accompaniment to the rustling of leaves and the hooting of owls. You would have heard the bells tolling, a mournful melody that seemed to seep into the very marrow of the bones, a reminder of the fate that awaited those who were condemned to hang in the gibbet cages. In the 18th century, these crossroads were a place of execution, where the guilty were left to rot, their bodies a grim warning to would-be wrongdoers, and the gibbet cages were the ultimate symbol of this ruthless justice. I always come back to this one, the story of the gibbet cages, because it's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was a sense of community, of people coming together to witness the execution and to reflect on the nature of justice and morality. The bells that hung from the gibbet cages were a constant presence, tolling out a funeral dirge for the condemned, their mournful peal echoing across the countryside, a haunting reminder of the transience of life. As the night wears on, the shadows deepen, and the gibbet cages seem to loom larger, their presence a somber reminder of the darkness that lurks within human nature. The bells, now silent, seem to whisper secrets to the wind, their stories of crime and punishment, of justice and retribution, a stark reminder of the harsh realities of life in a bygone era. And yet, even in the midst of such darkness, there is a strange, haunting beauty, a sense of melancholy that seems to seep into the very fabric of the night, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a sense of peace, of calm, that can be found in the stillness of the night. As you settle into the darkness, the shadows cast by the moon outside begin to seep into your room, like a slow-moving mist that gently wraps around your bed, and you would have heard the creaks and groans of old wooden beams had you been standing on the crossroads where the gallows once stood, a haunting presence that loomed over the landscape like a specter. The gibbet cages, those dreaded iron contraptions, were a common sight in 18th century Europe, particularly in England, where they were used to display the bodies of executed criminals, a grim reminder of the consequences of breaking the law. I always come back to this one, the way the iron cages seem to embody the darkness of the human soul, a tangible representation of the fear and the brutality that once reigned supreme. The Crossroads, a place where the living and the dead converged, where the veil between the world of the living and the world of the dead was at its thinnest, was the perfect location for these gruesome displays, a place where the authorities could showcase their power and control over the population. The gibbet cages, often hung from a sturdy oak or ash tree, would slowly swing in the breeze, the rustling of the chains and the creaking of the wood, a mournful serenade that echoed through the night, a haunting melody that seemed to whisper tales of the damned. The bodies, often left to rot, would eventually become a macabre spectacle, a grim attraction that drew crowds of morbid onlookers who would gather to gawk and whisper among themselves, their faces illuminated only by the faint moonlight. As the nights wore on, the darkness would seem to press in around the gibbet cages, like a physical presence that wrapped around the iron bars, and the shadows would deepen until it seemed as though the very darkness itself was alive and watching, waiting to claim the next victim. The wind would pick up, rustling the leaves, and the chains would creak, a mournful sound that seemed to carry on the breeze, a sound that seemed to come from the very depths of the earth, a sound that would haunt your dreams and linger long after you woke. And in that darkness, the gibbet cages stood as a grim reminder of the eternal night that awaited us all, a night that was both a promise and a threat, a night that was always waiting just beyond the edge of town. As you drift deeper into the darkness, the silhouette of a long-abandoned crossroads begins to take shape in your mind, the faint outlines of weathered stone and rusty iron slowly emerging from the shadows. It's here, at the intersection of forgotten roads, that the gibbet cages once stood, a grim reminder of the darker aspects of our shared history. I always come back to this one, the way the gibbet's presence seems to seep into the surrounding landscape, casting a long, ominous shadow that stretches and twists in the flickering moonlight. The practice of gibbeting, or suspending the bodies of executed criminals in iron cages, was a common one in 18th and 19th century Europe, particularly in England, where it was used to deter others from committing similar crimes. You would have heard the creaking of the gibbet's chains, the rustling of the wind through the iron bars, as the bodies slowly decayed, a ghastly spectacle that seemed to draw the very life out of the air. The cages themselves were often placed at Crossroads, a spot where travelers would inevitably pass, and where the authorities hoped the gruesome display would serve as a warning to potential wrongdoers. As the years passed, the gibbet cages became a familiar, if unsettling, sight, a constant reminder of the brutal consequences of crime. And yet, despite their fearsome reputation, the gibbets also seem to have exerted a strange, morbid fascination over those who saw them, a fascination that drew people in, even as it repelled them. It's a feeling that's difficult to shake, even now as the darkness deepens, and the shadows cast by the gibbet's iron bars seem to grow longer, twisting and writhing like living things. The wind stirs, whispering secrets in a language that's almost, but not quite, audible, and the silence that follows is oppressive, heavy with the weight of forgotten histories and unquiet spirits. As you drift deeper into the darkness, the shadows of history begin to take shape, like specters on a moonless night, their presence felt but not quite seen. The old Crossroads, a place where paths converged and diverged, where the living and the dead once intersected, now stands as a haunting reminder of the past. It was here, at these forsaken crossroads, that the gibbet cages stood, a gruesome testament to the unforgiving nature of justice in bygone eras. I always come back to this one, the way the rusting iron and weathered wood seem to whisper tales of a long-forgotten era, when the rule of law was often cruel and capricious. The gibbet cages, with their cold, unyielding metal, were designed to hold the bodies of those who had been executed, a grim warning to potential wrongdoers, a macabre spectacle that served as a deterrent to those who would challenge the established order. You would have heard the creaking of the wooden beams, the groaning of the ropes that bound the cages, as the wind whispered through the desolate landscape. The bodies, often left to rot, were a grim reminder of the consequences of crime, a stark illustration of the brutal efficiency of the judicial system. As the years passed, the gibbet cages became a familiar sight, a gruesome landmark that marked the crossroads, a place where travelers would pause momentarily to reflect on the transience of life and the severity of justice. The ropes that bound the cages, once taut and unyielding, would eventually weaken, breaking under the weight of time and decay, a poignant reminder that even the most seemingly permanent structures are subject to the erosive power of time. And yet the legacy of the gibbet cages endures, a haunting presence that continues to whisper tales of a darker, more unforgiving era, a time when the rule of law was often synonymous with cruelty and oppression. In the stillness of the night, the shadows of the gibbet cages seem to stretch and twist, like dark, spectral fingers reaching out to snatch the unwary, pulling them down into the depths of a troubled and often disturbing history. As the last remnants of daylight fade from the sky, the old crossroads are bathed in an eerie, twilight haze, the trees standing like skeletal sentinels, their branches creaking softly in the gentle breeze. You would have heard the distant howling of wolves, their mournful cries echoing through the desolate landscape, a haunting melody that seems to seep into the very marrow of your bones. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a primordial aroma that speaks of death and rebirth, of the cycle of life that plays out in this forsaken place. I always come back to this one, the gibbet cages that hang from the gallows, a grisly testament to the darker aspects of human nature, a reminder that our ancestors were capable of unimaginable cruelty. The iron cages, often in the shape of a human body, were designed to hold the corpse of an executed person, a grim warning to would-be wrongdoers, a deterrent that seemed to whisper, "Abandon all hope," to those who dared to trespass on the laws of the land. The practice of gibbeting, as it was known, was particularly popular in 18th century England, where the likes of highwaymen and murderers would be left to rot in these metal contraptions, their bodies slowly devoured by the elements and the scavenging birds that seemed to appear out of nowhere, like dark messengers of the underworld. As the nights drew in, the creaking of the gibbet cages would be the only sound, a mournful sigh that seemed to carry on the wind, a reminder of the transience of human life, of the fleeting nature of our existence. The Crossroads, once a place of bustling activity, would be deserted, the only witnesses to the gruesome spectacle being the trees, their branches swaying gently in the breeze, as if they too were trying to whisper a warning, a soft and melancholy whisper that seemed to caress the darkness. The darkness itself seemed to have a presence, a palpable entity that wrapped itself around the gibbet cages, infusing them with an aura of malevolence, a sense of foreboding that seemed to seep into the very soul of the place. In the silence, the shadows seemed to come alive, twisting and writhing like living things, as if they were trying to escape the darkness that had spawned them, to break free from the grip of the night that seemed to hold them in its cold, unforgiving grasp. The gibbet cages stood as a testament to the darkness that lurked within the human heart, a reminder that even in the most desolate of places, there was a beauty, a terrible beauty, that seemed to haunt the landscape, a beauty that seemed to whisper its presence in the darkness, a soft and melancholy whisper that seemed to lull the unwary into a deep and dreamless sleep. As you would have heard the wind whispering through the barren trees, the old Crossroads stood like a specter, a place where the living rarely lingered, and the dead were left to their eternal silence. The gibbet cages, iron latticeworks that hung from chains, creaked softly in the breeze, a mournful sound that seemed to echo through the centuries. I always come back to this one, the story of these cages, a grim reminder of the darkness that lurked in the hearts of men. In the 17th and 18th centuries, these crossroads were a common sight for the display of executed bodies, a warning to travelers of the consequences of crime, a stark reminder of the power of the law. The cages were designed to hold the corpse, sometimes for years, a gruesome spectacle that would slowly succumb to the elements, the flesh decaying, the bones bleaching white. The smell of rot and death would have clung to these places, a noxious miasma that would have driven even the bravest of travelers to hurry on, to leave the darkness behind. The custom of gibbeting, as it was known, was a peculiarly English practice, one that reflected the harsh punishments meted out by the courts of the time. A person convicted of a serious crime, such as murder or burglary, might be sentenced to be hanged, and then, as an additional punishment, their body would be enclosed in one of these iron cages, left to hang as a warning to others. The crossroads, with their flow of traffic, were a natural choice for these displays, a way to ensure that the maximum number of people would see the gruesome spectacle and be deterred from a life of crime. As the years passed, the practice of gibbeting slowly fell out of favor, the cages were taken down, and the crossroads were left to their silence. But the memory of these places, of the bodies that hung there slowly rotting away, remains a dark and haunting presence that still whispers through the trees on certain nights when the wind is just right. And in that silence, you can almost hear the creaking of the old chains, the soft rustle of the iron latticework, a sound that seems to come from another time, another world. As the moon casts its silvery glow over the old crossroads, the shadows seem to whisper secrets of a long-forgotten past, a time when the gibbet cages stood as a grim reminder of the darkness that lurked within the human heart. You would have heard the creaking of the iron bars, the rustling of the wind through the chains, as the bodies of the condemned were left to hang, a macabre spectacle for all to see. The crossroads, once a place of convergence and connection, had become a site of execution and display, a symbol of the brutal justice that was meted out to those who dared to break the law. I always come back to this one, the story of the gibbet cages, because it speaks to something deep within me, a fascination with the darker aspects of human nature. The practice of gibbeting, which originated in medieval Europe, was a brutal form of punishment meant to serve as a deterrent to would-be criminals, a warning of the consequences of their actions. The cages, often in the shape of a human body, were designed to hold the corpse of the condemned, a grim reminder of the price of crime. As the night wears on, the darkness seems to deepen, the shadows growing longer and more sinister, like skeletal fingers reaching out to snatch the living. The gibbet cages, once a symbol of fear and intimidation, now stand as a testament to the transience of human life, a reminder that even the most brutal of punishments cannot stave off the inevitable. The wind stirs, rustling the leaves, and the creaking of the old wooden sign seems to echo through the stillness, a haunting reminder of the crossroads' dark history. In the silence, the past seems to stir, the whispers of the dead carried on the wind, their stories, their lives, their deaths, all woven into the fabric of the crossroads' dark tapestry. The darkness closes in, a soft, enveloping shroud, and the world seems to slow, the shadows deepening, the night growing darker as the gibbet cages stand, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lies at the heart of the crossroads. And in this darkness, there is a strange, quiet peace, a sense of stillness, as if the world has finally come to rest.